So our first question is, what is the importance or the impact of a university foundation, particularly going forward? In this case, our university foundation.
Well, the CSUMB is now poised to undertake the next stage of its development, and it's going to be reaching out to the community and serving the needs of the region, responding to the community needs, and helping steer the community forward. For this purpose, for this function, it's important for us to have the pulse of the community, to have the connection of the community, both in terms of understanding what their needs are and also enlisting their support, so we can provide that margin of excellence that goes beyond what the state funding and their tuition revenue can support. So that's why we are strengthening the board of the foundation for this next phase.
You have to write longer than you speak. Thank you. So in your eyes, how do you see that the foundation supports? It's sort of a build on of what you just said, but supports the vision or the mission of this university. What is that role, the support role?
Well, particularly for this foundation moving forward, we're going to emphasize two roles. The traditional role of helping us communicate the exciting things that are going here and generating support, including financial support for the institution among the community members, and also showing some leadership in that regard by the board members themselves, but also critically providing strategic advice and direction for the university as it develops new programs in response to community needs.
It's an exciting and challenging proposition.
Yes.
And how do you see your or the president's role with regard to the foundation and this effort?
Well, first of all, coming into the university, my first task was to really understand the institution, to absorb the discourse and the sense of self that it has, the existing members of the university community, and then feed that back to the university and to the community in terms of what our aspirations, what our idea of ourselves is, and how we can move forward to more fully realize that vision. So it's a way of capturing what the institution's hopes and aspirations are, what the community needs are, and putting it together in a compelling vision. So I've communicated that internally to the community, to the university community, but also now I'm having to reach out and engage the external community in that vision.
It seems to me this external community is pretty excited and engaged, or hoping to be, in what's happening here on this campus.
Well, that's one of the things that really excites me about CSUMB is that we were welcomed with open arms when Holly and I came to this region, and it's clear that the community has great hopes and aspirations for the university and understands the possibilities in terms of this institution being a key resource to help community advancement in all phases. So that's really a great foundation to build on. No pun intended.
Or yes. So it seems to me the questions I've been thinking about all kind of are variations on a theme and building on this discussion, so maybe we can just continue that. So we have this university that is endeavoring to keep pace with the changes economically, socially, student needs and expectations, and so we're seeing and discussing that the foundation has a role in how that will progress and how that will be met, those changes, those needs.
Absolutely, yes. Again, the foundation will be our bridge to the community. It will really I have a twofold sort of role here, which is take the strategic advice and input and feedback from the community, from the foundation board members, but also communicate to them what the university is doing, where it's heading, so they can become our ambassadors in the community.
That feels new.
I think it's a fuller charge for the board, yes.
But therefore, probably one that really fully engages the board. It probably is much more exciting
That's right.
prospect
Yeah.
to be on the board.
It is, it doesn't, I don't think it's as fulfilling and rewarding for board members to be simply, tasked with fundraising for our university. It's really, and it's a new era. In the old days, I think development basically looked, the expectation was that donors would give money to the university and trust that they would be good stewards of it and they would do with it what they will. Nowadays, there's a new approach, sometimes called a new philanthropy, where people really look at their gift or their donations as an investment. And so they want to stay engaged, they want to see what fruits they bear. They want some accountability, some transparency on how those funds help advance the institution and the community.
That's good. Well, this is a question that we could take a few weeks to answer in terms of how much there probably is. What changes, developments, expectations do you envision for this university, and what role will the foundation play in realizing that? I realize you could pick among dozens of topics, probably.
Yeah, well, ultimately, this university, I think, I'd like to see it, I think it has the potential to become, in say 10 or 20 years, an essential key resource for the region in moving forward on all fronts, educationally, culturally, economically, socially. And so the foundation is going to be our partner in helping chart that course. Specifically, we're going to be identifying the programs that we need to develop to respond to regional needs. We're also going to play, I think, a key role in helping steer economic development in a strategic and coherent way by acting as a convener and as a sort of honest broker among all the various stakeholders. Again, to be able to play that role, we need a lot of intelligence about where the community is at, where are the players, what are the different sectors, and so that kind of information will be invaluable as provided by our board members who are leaders in the community. There's also the cultural dimension. I think that as the university grows and matures, we will probably be able to start focusing more and more on the arts. And there may be some things down the line that we can help coalesce the community. I know that very early on, for example, and I don't want to raise any early hopes yet, but very early on there was talk about a performance center on campus, because we don't have a really fully adequate venue in this region for a lot of the larger performers. That's something that I have some experience with, because I was at Sonoma State when they worked on their Green Music Center. That's a very big lift for an institution. So we're not near tackling that on. But who's to say, down the line, when we're larger, when the community is more engaged with us, we may be able to do something about that. There is a transformation going on in higher education right now in terms of the way of teaching and learning and the pressures on costs and efficiency. And we have an opportunity, because of advances in learning science and brain research, to really transform how teaching and learning takes place, to improve it as well as to make it more efficient. And there are certainly leading research universities that are doing groundbreaking work in that area. that these institutions are typically the ones who are least likely to adopt those innovations, because they're leaders already, and so they're, the way disruptive innovation works in any industry is that the industry leaders are the most wedded to the status quo and have the least incentive to adopt the new methods. So even when their own labs develop them, they don't necessarily adopt them. So we can be kind of like a little bit like Steve Jobs was to Xerox Research Park, and come in and see what they're developing and bring it to scale on our campus. We have, one of our greatest assets is that we have an academic culture on this campus that is unusually open to innovation and change. And so painting this picture, I tested this idea when I first got here, and I was very pleased to see that the faculty were excited and energized by it rather than threatened by it. So I think we can do something in there. And we have had a program of grants, innovation grants for faculty that has been funded by funds provided by the foundation, and that's gotten a very strong response by the faculty.
Well, as a member of the faculty, that's pretty exciting news. I'm not threatened by it either. Thank you. For those who are in the community, the wider community, who are perhaps less familiar with the work of CSUMB, the culture, the personality, the character, the projects, how would you characterize or describe, in a nutshell, CSUMB?
Well, CSUMB, one of the things that really distinguishes this university is that it was founded with a very, very powerful, compelling, and well-articulated vision. And that vision has continued to inspire subsequent generations of faculty and staff that come to this campus that are essentially self-selected group from our industry or our sector. Because there's no question about what we're about. We are about service learning and community engagement, about providing access and promoting social equity. We are about doing things in an innovative way, including approaches like outcomes-based curriculum, interdisciplinary learning, capstone projects for our students, learning communities. A lot of these ideas now have become more mainstream and are considered high-impact practices, but they were brand new when this university was founded. And so the nice thing about it is that those high-impact practices have been built in at the ground level in this campus, whereas in other institutions that are older and more set in their ways, they've had to be grafted or retrofitted. And it's always harder to retrofit than to design the right way in the first place.
Absolutely. Well, that must be an exciting proposition for you to arrive to that mentality here and to this practice.
Well, it was, and it wasn't a total surprise though, because I have been in the CSU since before this university was founded, actually, and so I watched it grow. I sort of knew about it, and you'll be interested to know that in Washington D.C., when I tell people I was coming back to California to CSUMB, everybody knew about this institution.
Ah.
And they knew about it because of its national profile in service learning and community engagement. But they also knew about it from the other innovative practices. I think that national higher ed leaders knew that back in 1994, this university had been created to be different, to be to adopt the innovative practices of the day.
I recently heard from an incoming student that she was not accepted to CSUMB, and after she took herself off the floor and finished sobbing in her parents' arms, she appealed, she wrote letters, she wrote essays, and she was accepted. And she wrote me a whole essay in class on what it means to be attending the university of her dreams, her first choice. And I think that's
nice.
Spectacular.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. The reputation must have proceeded for her as well. It was exciting.
Yeah.
I like this question. How would you describe your experience as president of this university thus far?
It's been really, really smooth and enjoyable, and it feels right. It doesn't feel forced. You know, it's like when you slip into a relationship and it all works. It's kind of like that, and it's really very nice. Nothing has to be forced. I'm not having to force myself to be somebody I'm not. There's just a natural fit. So it feels very comfortable, and it's thoroughly enjoyable. And I think that it's very gratifying to find that I'm able to, the contributions I can make to the university's development seem to be very congruent with the potential the university had to start with. It hasn't been about changing its character or a lurch in a different direction, but it's just a natural outgrowth of what's happened so far. The other thing I should talk about is the community. That's been one of the things that was I should have known about it in retrospect, but it still hadn't really focused on it, so it was a mild surprise and very pleasant, was discovering the strong Italian-American community in this region. And that feels very, very comfortable to me because I'm from Buenos Aires, and there are a lot of Italians there. And in many ways, the culture of Buenos Aires has a lot from Italian culture, so that it feels almost like home in that sense. Yeah.
And may it continue to grow in that way for you. Wonderful. Well, we'd like everybody to have that feeling of slipping in naturally and having it not be forced. And we talk to our students about not being anything but who you are, so it's pretty good to hear it from the helm.
Good.
Any other comments you'd like to add that I haven't asked?
Well, just that I'm terribly excited about the future here, and I'm really looking forward to working with our board members to help make this vision that we've all crafted together a reality.
Thank you very much.
Welcome.